Hey everyone, welcome back to Mr. English Podcast. Oh wow, today's topic is actually something that almost every person does, but very few people do it really well. Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever met someone new, maybe in a class, a job interview, a meeting, or even online, and when it was your turn to introduce yourself, you suddenly didn't know what to say? Maybe you just said, "Hi, my name is Alex," and then silence, awkward silence. Well, if that has ever happened to you, don't worry. You are definitely not alone. Because today we are going to talk about something very powerful, how to introduce yourself like a pro. Not just a normal introduction, but a confident, memorable, and effective introduction that makes people remember you. And to make this conversation more fun, more real, and more energetic, I am not alone today. I have a wonderful guest with me. She is young, energetic, and she also loves learning and speaking English. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here today. And honestly, when you said awkward silence, I started laughing because that has happened to me many times. Sometimes when someone says, "Please introduce yourself," my brain suddenly becomes empty. So I think this topic is very useful for everyone.
Exactly. That happens to many people. People study English for years. They learn grammar, vocabulary, reading, and listening. But when the moment comes to say a few sentences about themselves, they suddenly feel nervous. So today we are going to explore this topic deeply. We will talk about what self-introduction really means, why it is so important, where we use it, how to do it confidently, and what skills help us introduce ourselves better.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And I really like that we're not just going to give a short answer, but we're going to explore it step by step. Because sometimes people think introducing yourself is just saying your name, but actually, it is much more than that.
You are absolutely right. So let's start with a simple but very important question. When we say introducing yourself, what do we actually mean? Many people think it only means saying, "My name is," but in reality, a good introduction is a short story about who you are. It tells people who you are, what you do, what you care about, and sometimes what makes you unique. It's like giving people a small window into your world.
I really like that explanation. A small window into your world. That sounds beautiful. So instead of just giving basic information, we're actually helping people understand us better, right?
Exactly. And here's something very interesting. Psychologists say that first impressions are formed very quickly, sometimes in just a few seconds. So when you introduce yourself, you are shaping that first impression, and first impressions are powerful.
Yes, that's so true. Sometimes when someone introduces themselves in a confident and friendly way, you immediately feel comfortable talking to them. But when someone is very nervous or very quiet, the conversation becomes difficult.
Right, and that's why learning to introduce yourself well is actually a life skill. It's useful in school and university, in jobs, in business, and even in friendships. Let's talk about another important question. Why should we even care about this skill? Why does it matter? Well, there are many reasons. One reason is that it creates your first impression. When people meet you for the first time, your introduction becomes their first image of you. If your introduction is clear, confident, and friendly, people will remember you in a positive way. But if your introduction is confusing or very weak, they might forget you quickly.
That's very true. I remember once in a workshop, one person introduced himself in a very interesting way. He said his name, what he studies, and also one unique hobby he has. Everyone in the room remembered him.
Exactly. That's a great example. A good introduction makes you memorable. Another important reason is that a good introduction helps start conversations. If you only say, "Hi, my name is Ali," the conversation might stop. But if you say, "Hi, my name is Ali, I'm a university student, and I'm really interested in technology and languages," now people have topics to talk about. They might ask, "Oh, really? What languages do you learn?"
Yes, that's a great point. So a good introduction actually opens the door for communication.
Exactly, and communication is the heart of every relationship. Another reason is confidence. When you introduce yourself clearly and comfortably, people feel that you are confident and self-aware. And confidence attracts people. It makes people trust you more.
I love that point because sometimes people think confidence means speaking loudly, but actually, confidence is more about being comfortable with who you are.
Beautifully said. Confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being authentic. Now that we understand what self-introduction means and why it is important, the next big question is, where do we actually use this skill? Because the way you introduce yourself to a new friend is very different from how you introduce yourself in a job interview. And learning this difference is one of the secrets of introducing yourself like a pro. So let's continue our conversation. We said that introducing yourself is very important, but the next question is very interesting. Where do we actually introduce ourselves? Because not every introduction is the same. Sometimes you meet a new friend. Sometimes you meet a teacher. Sometimes you meet your future boss in a job interview. And each situation needs a slightly different style of introduction.
That's a great point. Because I remember when I first joined the new class, the teacher said, "Everyone, please introduce yourself." And I didn't know what information I should include. Should I talk about my hobbies, my studies, my goals? I felt a little confused.
Yes, that's very normal. So let's explore some common places where we introduce ourselves and see how we can do it effectively. Imagine this situation. You're in a new class, maybe a language class, a university course, or a training workshop. The teacher asks everyone to introduce themselves. In this situation, your introduction should be simple, friendly, and a little personal. For example, "Hi everyone, my name is Alex. I'm a university student and I'm studying computer science. I'm really interested in learning English because I want to communicate with people from different countries." See, it is simple, but it tells people something about you.
Yes, and I like that it also explains why the person is learning English. That makes the introduction more interesting.
Exactly. When you add a small reason or personal detail, people feel more connected to you. Now let's imagine a different situation. You are sitting in a job interview. The interviewer smiles and says, "Tell me about yourself." This is actually one of the most common interview questions in the world, but many people panic when they hear it.
Yes, I have heard that question before, and it sounds simple, but it can feel scary because you start thinking, what should I say? How long should I speak?
Exactly. In a job interview, your introduction should focus on three things: who you are, your experience or skills, and your goals. For example, "Hello, my name is Alex. I recently graduated in business administration and I have a strong interest in marketing and communication. During my studies, I worked on several projects related to digital marketing, and I'm excited to continue learning and growing in this field." See how it works? It is clear, professional, and focused.
I really like that structure. It feels organized and confident, and it shows that the person is serious about their career.
Exactly. A professional introduction helps employers see your potential. Now, let's talk about something more relaxed. Sometimes you meet new people at a gathering, a community event, or even online. In these situations, your introduction should feel natural and friendly. For example, "Hi, I'm Ahmed. I love learning languages and meeting new people. Recently, I started listening to English podcasts, and it's been really fun."
Oh, wow. I love that example. And I especially like that you mentioned English podcasts because that is exactly what our listeners are doing right now.
Yes, exactly. And that's actually a great way to connect with people. When you share something you enjoy, it makes the conversation more interesting. Now we come to the heart of today's episode. How can someone introduce themselves like a pro? Not just okay, but really impressive. Let's break it into a few simple steps. The first step is to start with a warm greeting. The first thing people hear is your greeting, so make it friendly. For example, "Hello everyone. Hi, nice to meet you. Good morning." Your tone matters a lot.
Yes, I think tone is very important. Even if the words are simple, a warm tone can make people feel comfortable.
Exactly. A smile in your voice can change everything. The next step is saying your name clearly. This may sound obvious, but many people say their name too quickly or too quietly, so say it clearly. For example, my name is Alex, or I'm Alex.
That's interesting. Sometimes people are nervous and they speak very fast, so slowing down a little can actually make the introduction stronger.
Absolutely. Speaking calmly shows confidence. After your name, people want to know something about you. You can mention your studies, your job, or your interests. For example, I'm a university student studying engineering, or I work in education and I really enjoy helping people learn.
I like that this part helps people understand your world. It gives them a picture of your life.
Exactly, and that picture makes you more memorable. Now add something unique. This is where your introduction becomes special. You can add something interesting, like a hobby, a goal, or a passion. For example, I love learning languages, and one day I hope to travel around the world.
That sounds inspiring, and it makes people curious. They might ask more questions.
Yes, and that's exactly what we want. A great introduction starts a conversation. Now, let's talk about something deeper. What skills help someone give a great introduction? Because it's not only about words, it's also about communication skills. One important skill is confidence. Confidence grows with practice. Another skill is clarity. Try to speak in simple sentences. And another powerful skill is active listening.
Oh, I really love that you mentioned listening because introducing yourself is not just talking, it's also being present and listening to others.
Exactly. Communication is always two-way. When you listen carefully, people feel respected, and that makes the conversation stronger. But there's another interesting thing we should talk about. Sometimes people make small mistakes when introducing themselves, and these mistakes can make the introduction weaker. So let's continue our conversation. We just talked about the basic steps of introducing yourself like a pro. But now let's talk about something very important, the common mistakes people make when introducing themselves. Because sometimes people don't fail because they don't know English, they fail because of small mistakes that reduce their confidence.
Oh, yes, I'm really curious about this because I think many listeners might be making these mistakes without realizing it. So, what is the first mistake?
Great question. The first common mistake is being too short. Some people introduce themselves like this. Hi, my name is John. And that's it. The conversation suddenly stops.
Yes, I've seen that happen many times. And everyone in the room just looks at each other like, okay, what now?
Exactly. Your introduction should give people something to continue the conversation with. Even one extra sentence can help a lot. For example, hi, my name is John. I'm a student, and I really enjoy learning English. Now people have something to talk about. But interestingly, the opposite mistake also exists. Some people talk too much. Their introduction becomes very long and confusing. They talk about their childhood, their school, their cousin, their neighbor, and people start getting lost.
Yes, that's true. An introduction should not become a life story.
Exactly. A good introduction is usually short, clear, and interesting. Think of it like a movie trailer. A trailer shows the most exciting parts, but it doesn't show the whole movie.
Oh, wow. I love that comparison. So your introduction is like a trailer for your personality.
Yes, that's a perfect way to say it. Another common mistake is speaking with too much nervousness. When people are nervous, they may speak very fast, avoid eye contact, or forget their words. But here's the good news. Confidence is something you can build with practice.
That's really encouraging because many people believe confidence is something you are born with, but actually it's a skill you can develop.
Absolutely. The more you practice introducing yourself, the more natural it becomes. You can even practice in front of a mirror or record yourself speaking. At first, it may feel strange, but slowly your confidence will grow. Now let's talk about something that many people forget: body language. Communication is not only about words. Your body also sends messages. For example, smiling, standing straight, and making gentle eye contact. These small things can make your introduction feel warm and confident.
Yes, that's so true. Sometimes when someone smiles while introducing themselves, it immediately makes the conversation more comfortable.
Exactly. A smile is one of the simplest but most powerful communication tools. And the amazing thing is, it works in every culture. Now I want to share something very important. If you want to introduce yourself like a pro, don't try to sound like someone else. Just be authentic. Authentic means being real and honest about who you are. You don't need to sound perfect. You don't need to use very complicated words. Simple, clear, and genuine is always better.
I really love that message because sometimes when people speak English, they try to sound very complicated. But actually, simple and sincere communication is much more powerful.
Exactly. Communication is not about showing how many difficult words you know. It's about connecting with people. So let's give our listeners a very simple formula. If you want a strong introduction, remember these 4 parts: greeting, name, what you do, and something interesting about you. For example, hi everyone, my name is Alex. I'm a university student studying computer science, and I'm really passionate about learning languages. See, simple, clear, and memorable.
Yes, that sounds very natural, and I think many listeners can easily use this formula.
Exactly, and the more you practice it, the more comfortable it becomes. Before we finish today's conversation, I want to share one final idea. Learning English is like learning a sport. You cannot become good just by watching. You must also practice. So after listening to this podcast, try this exercise. Introduce yourself in English, maybe to a friend, to a classmate, or even just to yourself. The more you practice, the more confident you will become.
That's a wonderful suggestion, and I think many listeners will feel inspired to try it because introducing yourself is something we all do many times in life. If we learn to do it well, it can open many doors.
Exactly. New friendships, new opportunities, new conversations. All of these can start with a simple introduction. And with that beautiful idea, we come to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for spending this time with us here on Mr. English Podcast.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening, and we truly hope today's conversation helped you feel more confident about introducing yourself in English. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. Just be clear, friendly, and authentic.
And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with your friends who are learning English, because learning together makes the journey more fun. Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep believing in yourself.
See you in the next episode of Mr. English Podcast.